At our engagement party, my fiancé's assistant splashed red wine all over me in front of 300 guests. "A bumpkin like you thinks she's worthy of marrying Ethan?" she sneered. "I'm calling off this engagement." Calmly, I wiped the wine from my face and dialed a number. "Did you hear that?" I said into the phone. "Someone just said I'm not good enough." The crystal chandeliers sparkled brilliantly in the ballroom of a 5-star hotel. Today was my engagement party with Ethan Carter. Over 300 guests had arrived, important clients and business partners of both our families. I wore a simple white dress and sat quietly in the corner, playing on my phone. This whole engagement thing had been entirely arranged by our parents. Ethan is a well-known architectural designer in Ocean City. His firm, Carter Design, has a stellar reputation in the industry. But in his eyes, I was just a regular employee at some investment company. We'd known each other for 3 years, dated for 2, but the number of times we'd actually gone out, just the 2 of us, could be counted on one hand. Every time I tried to make plans, he'd say he was too busy with work. Later, I found out that whenever he rejected my invitations, he was always with his assistant, Monica White. "Emily, why are you sitting here alone?" Ethan walked over, wearing a perfect social smile. He had on a well-tailored black suit, looking mature and poised. I looked up at him and asked, "Weren't you going to introduce me to your friends?" "Oh, right." He tugged awkwardly at his tie. "I'll do that in a bit. I need to go greet some other guests first." Then he quickly walked away. I went back to looking at my phone, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw him heading toward Monica White on the other side of the hall. Monica wore a stunning red evening gown, her makeup flawless, glowing with charm. Standing next to Ethan, they looked like the perfect couple, like they belonged together. Meanwhile, I looked more like an outsider. "Miss Taylor, good evening," a middle-aged man in a suit approached respectfully. "I'm Mark Lynn, CFO of Carter Design. Mr. Carter asked me to keep you company." I nodded politely. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Lynn." "And where do you work, Miss Taylor?" He sat beside me, trying to start a conversation. "Just a regular investment firm. I do some fund management," I replied casually. A flicker of condescension crossed his eyes, but he quickly hid it. "I see. The investment field must be quite competitive." "It's manageable." The air grew awkward. It was obvious Mark had no real interest in talking to someone like me. After a few forced lines of small talk, he made an excuse and left. I picked up my phone again and was about to return to my game when I heard mocking laughter from not far away. "I heard Mr. Carter's fiancée is just a low-level clerk at an investment firm." "Yeah, and she's not even that pretty. She's definitely not a match for him. Ethan's so outstanding, he could have any woman he wants, yet he's going along with his family's arrangement? I bet they'll be divorced within months." I looked up. Several elegantly dressed women stood around a table nearby, whispering among themselves. They probably thought I couldn't hear them, but at that distance, I caught every word clearly. I ignored them and continued playing on my phone. I was already used to this kind of gossip at events like this. "Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends," Ethan suddenly stepped onto the stage and took the microphone. "Thank you for coming today to attend my engagement party with Emily Taylor. On this special day, I'd like to say a few words to my fiancé." His eyes turned to me, but there wasn't the slightest warmth in his gaze. "Emily, although this engagement was arranged by our families, but I hope we can support each other and grow together." His words were formal and courteous, the kind you'd expect in a press release. Sparse applause echoed from the crowd. I clapped politely along with them. Just then, Monica White suddenly stepped onto the stage holding a microphone, her face lit with a sweet smile. "Excuse me, I'd like to say a few words." Ethan hesitated slightly but didn't stop her. Monica cleared her throat and looked down at me from the stage. "Emily, I know you probably don't fully understand Ethan's work. As his assistant, I just wanted to give you a little reminder. Ethan is a workaholic. He often stays up working late into the night. You'll need to be understanding. And he really doesn't like clingy women. You'll need to give him plenty of space. Most importantly, his career is just taking off. He needs a woman who can support him, not one who'll hold him back." She sounded like she was offering kind advice, but every word carried a sharp, veiled jab. The guests began to murmur. "She's right," someone whispered. Emily really doesn't seem like a good match for Mr. Carter. She's just a low-level employee. What kind of support could she possibly offer him? I slowly stood up and walked toward the stage. All eyes turned to me. Monica caught sight of me approaching, and a flicker of smugness flashed in her eyes. "You're absolutely right, Miss White," I said calmly as I took the microphone. "I really don't know much about Ethan's work, but I'd like to ask, aren't you being a little too involved for an assistant?" Monica's expression faltered. "I was only trying to help." "Helpful?" I let out a quiet laugh. "Then let me give you a helpful reminder in return. As Ethan's fiancé, I hope you'll understand your role clearly. Don't act in ways that might be misunderstood." Her face flushed red instantly. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You know exactly what it means," I said coolly. The atmosphere in the hall grew tense. Ethan quickly walked over, trying to smooth things over. "All right, let's not do this. Today's our engagement party. Let's keep it light-hearted." Suddenly, Monica grabbed a wine glass from the table, half full of red wine. Her eyes burned with fury. "And what gives you the right to talk to me like that, Emily?" she snapped. "I've worked for Ethan for 3 years. I stay late with him every single night. Do you even know how much I've sacrificed? And you, what do you even have besides the title of fiancé? What do you bring to the table?" Her voice rose, shrill and emotional. "You're just a little employee making a few thousand a month. Who are you to criticize me? Who are you to act like you belong here?" And with that, she hurled the wine in my direction. The splash echoed in the silent hall. Red wine spilled across my white dress, instantly soaking it in a deep scarlet. The room went completely still. Every breath seemed to freeze. The wine dripped down my cheek, and the stain on my dress, under the dazzling lights, looked especially jarring. Over 300 guests sat frozen, every eye locked on me. Some pulled out their phones to record. Others covered their mouths in shock. More than a few looked eager to watch the drama unfold. Monica stood on stage, her chest heaving. Even she seemed a bit surprised at her own outburst. But in the next second, her expression turned even more arrogant. "This is what happens when you try to challenge me, Emily," she spat. "You think just because you're his fiancé you can do whatever you want? Let me tell you something. This world respects power, not connections." Murmurs rippled through the crowd again. "She's right. Emily's acting too entitled. She's just a regular employee. Who does she think she is, throwing her weight around?" I slowly took out a handkerchief and began to wipe the red wine from my face, carefully, steadily, and without rushing. "It's only right I return the favor with a small announcement of my own." It was as if none of what had just happened had anything to do with me. I turned my gaze to Ethan, my fiancé, who was standing below the stage. His face was pale, his eyes flickering with unease. "Your assistant just threw wine on me, in front of over 300 guests. Aren't you going to say something?" Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came out. His eyes darted between me and Monica, clearly unsure of how to handle the situation. "Ethan, say something." Monica suddenly grabbed his arm. "I've worked for you for years. How could you let her humiliate me like that? Didn't you tell me I was your most important partner?" Ethan winced slightly from her grip and frowned, but still said nothing. I let out a soft laugh. "Well, I suppose, Mr. Carter's silence speaks volumes." I picked up the microphone again, my voice carrying clearly throughout the hall. "Dear guests, I apologize for letting you witness such an unpleasant scene today. But perhaps it's not such a bad thing. At least now I can see people's true colors." The audience began murmuring among themselves. What does Emily mean by that? Is she going to cause a scene? She should really just let it go on a day like this. Monica, seeing that I wasn't running off in shame like she'd expected, became even more aggressive. "Stop pretending, Emily. This engagement party was a joke from the beginning. Who do you think you are? What gives you the right to marry Ethan? Is it your pathetic little salary, or that invisible, irrelevant family background of yours?" Her words were getting nastier and more vicious by the second. The guests joined in the chatter. "She's got a point. Emily really isn't a match for Mr. Carter. They're from completely different worlds. This was bound to fall apart." Even a few senior staff from Carter Design began to speak up in agreement. "Miss White is right," one of them said. "Miss Taylor, you really should face reality. Mr. Carter is exceptional. You two just aren't a good match. Walking away now is best for everyone." Despite the ridicule and doubts thrown at me from every direction, I remained composed. I walked slowly toward Monica and stopped right in front of her. My voice was soft but clear. "Monica, are you sure this is what you want to do?" "Absolutely." She stood tall, defiant. "I want everyone to see that you, Emily Taylor, don't belong here. You're not worthy of marrying Ethan. This whole engagement party is a farce." She turned toward the audience, her voice sharp and piercing. "Ladies and gentlemen, as the senior assistant of Carter Design, I officially announce that this engagement is canceled. Emily Taylor, you can leave now." The hall erupted into commotion. Some people clapped, some jeered, most raised their phones to record what was now turning into full-blown scandal. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Monica, don't do this." But his voice was weak, unconvincing, more like an obligatory protest than a genuine objection. Monica smiled triumphantly. "Ethan, you finally said it. You and I have been in love for 3 years. Why should we be separated just because of some family arrangement? We should be brave and stay together." With that, she threw her arms around him and embraced him tightly. A gasp rippled through the crowd. "So that's it?" Mr. Carter and his assistant were the real couple all along. Poor Emily, her man got stolen right in front of everyone. I stood there, watching them. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a strange sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. "Dad?" I said quietly into the receiver. "Did you hear that?" Someone said I'm not good enough. There was a pause on the other end, and then a low, steady voice replied. "I heard." I ended the call and picked up the microphone again. "Ladies and gentlemen, since Miss White has taken it upon herself to announce the cancellation of this engagement on behalf of Carter Design, I suppose there's nothing more for me to say. However, before I leave, I'd like to clarify something," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not just some low-level employee at an investment firm. I'm Emily Taylor, chairwoman of Taylor Investment Group." As soon as the words left my mouth, Taylor Investment, Emily Taylor, the entire room exploded. Taylor Investment Group, one of the largest investment firms in Ocean City, assets valued in the tens of billions. And Emily Taylor, the legendary heiress of the Taylor family, a name shrouded in mystery, never seen in the media, always elusive. Ethan's face went ghostly pale. Monica stood frozen, her mouth hanging open in disbelief. Whispers surged through the crowd. "This can't be real. Emily, the chairwoman of Taylor Investment? But isn't the Taylor heiress someone who never shows her face publicly? Is this a joke?" I ignored their doubts and continued speaking. 3 years ago, when Carter Design was first established, it nearly collapsed due to a broken funding chain. It was I who, under the name of Taylor Investment, injected $50 million to save the company. 2 years ago, when Carter Design was bidding on the Ocean City Central Business District project and faced fierce competition, it was I who used my connections to have the competitor withdraw. 6 months ago, when Carter Design sought to expand but couldn't secure a bank loan, I was the one who signed the guarantee that approved a $200 million loan. With every sentence I spoke, Ethan's face grew paler, and the guests began to realize the truth behind my words. Many of them had known about these incidents. They just hadn't known I was the one behind them. The entire room fell into a thick, tense silence. Monica's face turned from red to white, then to greenish pale. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. Ethan sank into a chair, gripping his hands so tightly his knuckles turned white. I went on, my voice calm. "Of course, all of that is in the past. Since Miss White believes I'm not good enough, then there's no need for me to continue with this pointless relationship. Starting today, Taylor Investment will fully withdraw all funding from Carter Design, including the 3 active projects and the upcoming loan of $200 million. Ethan shot to his feet, his voice shaking. "Emily, you can't do that. There are more than 80 employees at the company. They're innocent. If these projects shut down, a lot of people will lose their livelihoods." I looked at him, my eyes still and clear. "Then maybe you should speak to your assistant about that. After all, she's the one who just announced the cancellation of our engagement on behalf of your company." Monica finally snapped out of her shock. Her face had gone completely white. No, that's not what I meant. I was just..." I acted impulsively. Miss Taylor, please. Please give us another chance. She even looked like she was about to kneel in front of me. I stepped aside. Didn't you say earlier that the world respects strength? Then allow me to show you what strength looks like. I took out my phone and calmly dialed a number. Execute the Taylor investment withdrawal plan immediately. All projects related to Carter Design are to be halted. The bank loan repayments begin tomorrow. After I hung up, I turned to face the guests again. Ladies and gentlemen, today's engagement party is officially over. Thank you all for attending. With that, I turned to leave. Wait. Ethan suddenly rushed over and grabbed my arm. Emily, I was wrong. This whole thing was a misunderstanding. You can't destroy the company just because of something an assistant said. I pulled my arm away and let out a cold laugh. A misunderstanding? Ethan Carter, do you think I'm a child? You really thought I didn't know about your relationship with her? Every time I asked you out, you said you were busy with work. But in truth, you were with her, on dates, working late, spending every moment that should have been mine. And I was the idiot who believed you were just a workaholic. Ethan's face twisted in shame and panic. Emily, I admit we had our issues, but that's no reason to destroy the company. There are so many employees, they don't deserve this. And what you're doing now, how is that any different from revenge? I couldn't help but laugh at Ethan's words. Revenge, Ethan Carter? You give yourself too much credit. I'm simply making a normal business decision. Taylor Investment doesn't do losing deals, and clearly, Carter Design is no longer worth our investment. Just then, the doors to the banquet hall burst open. A middle-aged man in a black suit walked in, followed by more than a dozen bodyguards. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Jackson Taylor, the founder of Taylor Investment, a legendary figure in Ocean City's business world, and my father. Emily, he said as he approached me, his voice warm and calm. You've been wronged. I nodded. Dad, I've taken care of it. Jackson's gaze swept across the room, finally landing on Monica. So you're the one who threw wine on my daughter? Monica trembled, unable to speak. Jackson turned to Ethan. Ethan Carter, you know exactly how my daughter has treated you. And how did you treat her in return? You allowed your assistant to humiliate her in front of over 300 guests. Did you really think you could walk away from this unscathed? Ethan opened his mouth to explain, but under the weight of Jackson's stare, no words came out. Jackson then turned to address the crowd. Everyone here, listen well. I, Jackson Taylor, will remember what happened today. Anyone who dares lay a hand on my daughter again will not only be going against me, they'll be going against all of Taylor Investment. He didn't need to raise his voice. Every word struck like thunder. No one in the room dared to speak. Dad, let's go, I said softly, tugging at his sleeve. He nodded and turned to the bodyguards. Escort Miss Taylor home. As we prepared to leave, Ethan suddenly rushed forward. Mr. Taylor, please give me another chance. I know I made a mistake. I want to start over with Emily. Jackson let out a cold laugh. Now you realize you were wrong? Where were you when my daughter had wine thrown in her face? And now that your company's collapsing, suddenly you remember how good she was to you. He glared at Ethan. And who the hell do you think you are? Without another word, he took my hand and led me out of the hall, never once looking back. Behind us, Monica's sobs and Ethan's voice calling my name echoed faintly, but none of it mattered anymore. The next morning, every major media outlet in Ocean City was flooded with headlines about the engagement party. Shock at engagement. Taylor Investment heiress splashed with wine by Mistress. Carter Design faces imminent collapse. Jackson Taylor declares war. Earthquake in Ocean City business scene. I lay in bed, lazily scrolling through the reports on my phone. My assistant, Sarah, called. Miss Taylor, Ethan Carter has been waiting outside the building all night. He insists on seeing you. Should I have security remove him? I thought for a moment. Let him wait. I have a meeting this morning. Maybe I'll deal with him this afternoon. After hanging up, I got out of bed and went to wash up. My schedule today was packed. I had 3 major investment negotiations lined up. Taylor Investment wasn't going to stop running just because of one Ethan Carter. At 10 a.m., I arrived at the office. Just as Sarah had said, Ethan was sitting in the lobby, looking worn and disheveled. His eyes were bloodshot. The moment he saw me, he stood up and tried to approach, but the security guard stepped in front of him. "Miss Taylor, would you like us to take care of this?" the head of security asked. I shook my head. "No need, let him wait." Then, without a glance back, I walked straight into the elevator. As the elevator doors closed, I caught a glimpse of the despair in Ethan's eyes, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No hesitation. Some mistakes, once made, leave no road back. In the conference room, 3 project leads were already waiting for me. Each of the projects they represented was worth billions, powerful enough to reshape Ocean City's entire business landscape. "Sorry to keep you waiting," I said as I walked in. "Miss Taylor, are you all right?" One of them asked with concern. "We heard what happened yesterday." "I'm fine, just a minor hiccup," I replied, taking my seat. "Let's begin." For the next 3 hours, we went over every detail of all 3 projects. I demanded the highest standards for every step of execution. Not a single dollar of Taylor Investments' money was going to be wasted. After the meeting, I returned to my office. Sarah came in with an update. "Miss Taylor, Ethan Carter is still downstairs waiting. Several senior executives from Carter Design have also shown up. They say they want to apologize in person. Also, more than a dozen media outlets are requesting interviews." I rubbed my temples. "Decline all media interviews for now. As for the Carter Design people, tell them to go back." "And Ethan?" I thought for a moment. "Let him come up." 10 minutes later, Ethan walked into my office. He looked even worse than yesterday, his face haggard, dark circles under his eyes, stubble unshaven, and his clothes wrinkled beyond repair. "Emily, thank you for agreeing to see me," he said hoarsely. "Sit," I said, pointing to the chair across from me. He sat, hands clenched tightly together, visibly tense. "Emily, I'm really sorry for what happened yesterday. I know I was wrong. I should never have let Monica treat you like that. And worse, I stayed silent when she threw wine at you. I know nothing I say now can make up for how much I've hurt you, but I'm begging you, please, give the company another chance. Give the employees another chance." I listened quietly, expressionless. "I know you hate me," he added softly. "I don't," I cut him off. "Ethan Carter, I don't feel anything toward you anymore. Not love, not hate, because both require emotion, and you're no longer worth that." His face turned even paler. "But the company, the employees, they're innocent. Punish me if you want, but don't drag them down too." I stood up and walked toward the floor-to-ceiling window. Through the glass, I could see the vibrant skyline of Ocean City stretching out beneath me. "Do you remember?" I said, still looking out. "The first time I met you? 3 years ago, you were struggling with funding issues, nearly at the end of your rope. You were so focused then, so serious, so full of ideals. That drive moved me. That's why I agreed to the engagement. Why I chose to support your company. I thought that, over time, we'd develop real feelings for each other." I turned to face him. "But do you know what disappointed me the most? It wasn't your relationship with Monica. It wasn't even your coldness toward me. It was your cowardice when it truly mattered. Yesterday, when Monica splashed wine in my face, you stayed silent. When she publicly humiliated me, you turned away." I stared directly at him. "A man like that doesn't deserve his career, and he certainly doesn't deserve my love." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "Emily, I know I messed up. If I could go back in time, I would never have let Monica treat you that way. I would have stood up for you, told everyone clearly that you were my fiancé." But I shook my head. Time doesn't rewind. Some mistakes. Once you've made a mistake, it's still a mistake. And once harm is done, it's done. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Now it's too late for everything." The office fell into a suffocating silence. Ethan slumped into his chair, the light in his eyes completely gone. "So, there's really no chance at all?" His voice was faint, filled with hopelessness. "No," I answered bluntly. "Emily, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said. "But Monica, she was just confused. She came from the countryside and worked her way up here in Ocean City all alone for years. It hasn't been easy for her. Can you let her go?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Ethan, even now, you're still defending her. She humiliated me in front of 300 guests, threw wine in my face, and you're calling that a moment of confusion? So if I destroy your company, can I just say I was confused?" Ethan opened his mouth but couldn't get any words out. "Forget it. There's nothing more to say." I sat back down in my chair. "You can go, Emily," he said slowly. "Just one last question. If we had gotten together because we truly loved each other and not because of our families, would things have turned out differently? I looked at him and stayed silent for a long moment. Maybe, I finally said, but there are no what-ifs in this world. Ethan, it's time you faced reality. He nodded slightly, then stood up slowly. Then I'll go. Wait, I called after him. I have a proposal. He turned back around, a faint glimmer of hope flashing in his eyes. Go ahead, I'll consider anything. Does this mean you might not withdraw the investment? Possibly, I said, but only under certain conditions. Anything, he said quickly, walking back toward me. If you're willing to forgive me— I didn't say anything about forgiveness, I interrupted. There are conditions. What conditions? Tell me. Whatever they are, I'll do my best. I stood up and walked over to him. First, I said, Monica White must leave Carter Design. Permanently. She can never come back. Second, Carter Design will transfer 51% of its shares to me. Third, you must publicly apologize in front of all employees for what happened yesterday. Fourth, starting today, you will serve solely as design director. You will no longer be the company's CEO. Ethan's face fell as I listed each demand. He turned pale again. Emily, those conditions are too harsh, especially the shares. Carter Design is my life's work. I can't just give it away. Then there's nothing more to discuss, I cut in coldly. If you think my terms are too much, we'll proceed with the original plan. The bank will begin loan recovery procedures tomorrow. You'll have 3 days to pay it all back. If not, the company will be shut down. Emily, you can't do this, he cried, desperation rising in his voice. You're forcing me. Forcing you? I let out a cold laugh. Get this straight. You're the one begging me, not the other way around. I'm giving you 2 options. Accept my terms or watch your company collapse. There is no third choice. He began pacing the office, clearly struggling internally. Can you give me a little time to think it through? Fine, I said, glancing at my watch. You have 24 hours. Give me your answer by this time tomorrow. If I don't hear from you, I'll assume you've refused. Ethan nodded slowly, then turned and left the office. A moment later, Sarah walked in. Miss Taylor, are you really planning to acquire Carter Design? Of course, I said, returning to my chair. Carter Design may not be huge in scale, but it still holds a certain weight in the design industry, I continued. Acquiring it will help us expand into the real estate sector. What about Ethan? Sarah asked. How do you plan to handle him? Keep him, I said after a pause. His design skills are still solid. As long as he does his job properly, I won't make things hard for him. Sarah nodded. And Monica White? She absolutely cannot stay. My tone turned cold. She dared to humiliate me in public. She needs to face the consequences of that. Have someone look into her background. See if she has any weaknesses. If not, then create some. Understood, Sarah said as she jotted it down in her notebook. Anything else? Not for now, I said, rubbing my temples. That's enough for today. After Sarah left, I sat alone in the office, staring out at the night skyline. Ocean City looked stunning after dark. Millions of lights glowing across the city, cars weaving through the streets, but my mood was complicated. It would be a lie to say I didn't resent Ethan, but the resentment I felt was mostly toward myself. How could I have fallen for a man like that? My phone rang. It was my father. Emily, how are things today? Fine. Ethan came to see me. What did he say? He begged for forgiveness, asked me not to pull the investment. And how did you respond? I gave him some conditions. What kind of conditions? I repeated to him everything I had told Ethan earlier. Good, my father replied with a hint of approval. That way, we protect our investment while still making them pay the price. Well thought out. But Dad, I said, I still feel like this is letting them off too easy. What happened yesterday? They shouldn't get away with that so easily. Emily, he said, calm and composed, the business world is like a battlefield. Sometimes, it's wiser to stop short than to go for total destruction. Carter Design will be useful to us after the acquisition. As for Ethan, he's lost control of the company. What else can he possibly do now? I understand. Get some rest. You've got more to handle tomorrow. Okay, Dad. Good night. I hung up and started gathering my things to go home. Tomorrow was the day Ethan would give me his final answer. Whatever he decided, I was ready. The next afternoon, Ethan showed up at my office right on time. He looked even more drained than the day before. His eyes were red and swollen. He clearly hadn't slept at all. Emily, I've thought about it all night, he said as he sat down, his voice hoarse. I accept your terms, all of them. All of them? I asked, double-checking. He nodded. Yes, all of them. But I have one request, he added. Go ahead. It's about Monica. Can you spare her? She did make a mistake, but you don't have to completely ruin her. Let her leave Ocean City and start over somewhere else. Please? I stared at him, inwardly scoffing. Even now, he was still begging for her. Ethan Carter, have you forgotten where we are in this conversation? I said coldly. You're the one begging me, not the other way around. My terms were very clear. You either accept them or you don't. There's no room for negotiation. His face turned even more grim. Emily, I know I'm in no position to beg you for anything, he said. But Monica truly regrets everything. She cried all night last night. She's been overwhelmed with remorse. If it hadn't been for me, she never would have done something like that. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Don't drag her down with me. I couldn't help but laugh. Ethan, you really are something else. Your fiancée was publicly humiliated, and not only did you not comfort her, you're now pleading for the person who did it. What kind of logic is that? He opened his mouth but couldn't find a reply. Forget it, I said, not wanting to waste more words. I pulled out a contract. This is the share transfer agreement. Sign it. He took the contract in trembling hands. Emily, do you really have to do this? Carter Design is everything to me. It's my dream. Doing this is no different than killing me. Killing you? I scoffed. Ethan, don't flatter yourself. I'm just doing business. No one is forcing you to sign this. You can refuse. Then you can watch your company collapse. And not only will you lose everything, you'll also be left with a mountain of debt. You won't even have a chance to start over. But if you sign it now, you still get to keep your position as design director. You'll earn a solid salary. You should be thanking me, not resenting me. He stayed silent for a long time, then finally signed his name on the contract. Good. I took the papers and put them away. As of today, Carter Design is officially a subsidiary of Taylor Investment. I'll be sending people to take over finance and HR. You'll only be responsible for design. Don't worry about anything else. When will the employee meeting be? He asked. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I checked my schedule. I'll be there in person. You'll issue a public apology and announce the personnel changes. Understood. And one more thing, I added. Monica White needs to leave the company today. If I see her still there tomorrow, this agreement is void. He nodded silently. I'll go now, he said, rising to his feet. See you tomorrow. Wait, I said, stopping him. There's something I forgot to mention. What is it? From this moment forward, you are not to have any contact with Monica White. No meetings, no calls, no texts. If I find out that you're still in contact with her, I'll terminate you immediately. His face twisted with frustration. Emily, isn't that going too far? Too far? I stood up. Ethan Carter, you think I'm going too far? Was it too far when Monica threw wine at me in front of 300 guests yesterday? That's not the same. There is no not the same. I cut him off coldly. You either accept every condition I've laid out, or we tear this agreement up right now. Your choice. He stood frozen for a long moment, then nodded. I agree. Great. I sat back down. Then I'll see you tomorrow. After he left, I immediately called Sarah. Send someone to Carter Design right away. Make sure Monica White is leaving the building. Also, have legal prepare all acquisition-related documentation. I want every file in place before tomorrow's meeting. Yes, Miss Taylor. Oh, and track Monica White's movements. I want to know exactly where she goes next. What she's doing, I said. Understood. Sarah hung up. I stared out at the city lights. This game was only just beginning. Ethan thought that by signing the contract, everything would be resolved, but he was wrong. The real revenge was just getting started. The next morning, I arrived at Carter Design right on time. The company occupied 3 floors of a 20-story office building. As I entered the lobby, the receptionist immediately stood up, visibly nervous. Good morning, Miss Taylor. Mr. Carter is waiting for you in the conference room. I gave a slight nod. Are all the employees present? Yes, everyone is already inside. I walked toward the elevator with Sarah and several legal team members following close behind. Today's meeting was crucial. It would decide not just the future of Carter Design, but Ethan's as well. The conference room was packed with around 80 employees. As I stepped inside, everyone stood and clapped, but the applause was stiff and uneasy. Clearly, they all knew something serious had happened. "Good morning, everyone." I walked to the front. "Please take your seats." Ethan was seated in the front row. His face was pale, his eyes uncertain. "I'm Emily Taylor, chairwoman of Taylor Investment," I began. "As of today, Carter Design is officially a subsidiary of Taylor Investment. I will be serving as the chairwoman here and will oversee all company operations." Sparse applause followed. "I understand that such a change might take some time to get used to," I continued, "but please rest assured, this transition will not affect your jobs, positions, or compensation. In fact, employees who demonstrate outstanding performance will be rewarded." At this, the atmosphere visibly relaxed. "However," I said, my tone shifting slightly, "there's something we need to address first. Regarding what happened 2 nights ago at the engagement party, Mr. Carter has something to say." I turned to Ethan. He slowly stood up and walked to the front. His voice trembled as he began to speak. "Dear colleagues, I have something to confess." His eyes flickered toward me, then back to the crowd. "At the engagement party 2 days ago, my former assistant Monica White behaved inappropriately toward Miss Taylor in front of our guests. As her fiancé at the time, I failed to step forward and protect her. That was my mistake, and I feel deeply ashamed." He bowed low. The room was still. Most of the employees had heard about the incident, but few knew the full story. Now, hearing it directly from him left them stunned. "Miss Taylor," Ethan continued, "I am truly sorry. I betrayed your trust and disappointed both our families. I know no apology can undo what I've done, but I ask for one chance to redeem myself through my work. I will dedicate myself fully to this company and use my actions to make amends." He bowed again, even lower than before. This time, the applause was genuine, louder and more sincere. The employees were clearly moved by his humility and remorse. I stepped forward. "Mr. Carter's attitude is sincere, and I accept his apology. But a true apology comes with consequences." I let my gaze sweep across the room. Effective immediately, Ethan Carter will no longer serve as general manager of Carter Design. He will continue as the company's chief designer. All business operations and management decisions will now be handled by a team from Taylor Investment. The room stirred with whispers. "Additionally," I continued firmly, "Monica White has been terminated and is permanently banned from returning to this company. Anyone who maintains any form of contact with her will be immediately dismissed." The murmurs grew louder, a mixture of surprise and tension rippling across the room. Everyone knew about Ethan Carter's relationship with Monica White, so hearing this strict policy came as a surprise. I could sense their unease, so I continued calmly. "I understand these changes might be difficult to adapt to," I said, "but please trust that everything I'm doing is for the long-term success of this company. Taylor Investment has strong financial backing and vast market resources. With our support, Carter Design is going to achieve even greater things." "Now," I continued, "I'd like to announce several personnel appointments. Miss Sarah Lynn will be appointed as General Manager of Carter Design and will oversee daily operations. Mr. Edward Lai will serve as Chief Financial Officer, handling all financial management. Mr. David Zhang will be Head of Human Resources, in charge of personnel management. These appointments take effect immediately." This time, the applause was much stronger. Though the employees were still adjusting, they clearly recognized that this transition was a good thing. With Taylor Investment behind them, the company's future looked more promising than ever. "One final note," I said, pausing for a moment. "Every single employee here is a valuable part of this company. As long as you work hard, we will reward you with better benefits and greater opportunities for advancement. I hope we can all work together as one team to make this company thrive. Thank you." After the meeting, the employees began leaving one by one. Ethan came up to me. "Emily, thank you for giving me this chance. I won't let you down." "I hope not," I said, looking him in the eye. "Remember what you said today. I'll be holding you to it." "I will," he nodded. "And don't forget our agreement," I added. "You are not to have any contact with Monica White, none whatsoever." His face shifted slightly, but he still nodded. "I know." I turned to leave, but a thought came to me. "Oh, one more thing." "What is it?" Your office. I'm having it completely remodeled. Starting today, you'll move into the design department to work. He hesitated. Emily, isn't that a little... Do you have a problem with that? I turned and looked at him. No, he said quickly, lowering his head. I'll pack up now. Good. I left Carter Design in high spirits. The first phase of my plan had gone perfectly. Now it was time for phase 2. A month later, Carter Design's performance was soaring. With Taylor Investments backing, the company had secured several major contracts. Employee morale was high, and the atmosphere had improved noticeably. But Ethan Carter's condition had only worsened. Once a proud and ambitious CEO, he had become just another staff member. Though his title remained chief designer, in practice he was no different from the rest of the design team. What made it worse for him was that he still couldn't contact Monica. Sarah gave me daily updates. Miss Taylor, Ethan was distracted again today. One of his designs was rejected by the client for the 3rd time. He's not in a good place emotionally. I see, I said, putting down my file. And Monica? She got a job at a small company as an admin assistant. Her salary is about 1/3 of what she used to earn. She's renting a cheap place in the outskirts of the city. Good. I nodded with satisfaction. Keep watching her. Will do. Oh, and should I arrange your visit to Carter Design? Yes. Let's go now. 30 minutes later, I arrived at the company. The changes were obvious. The office had been renovated with a sleek, modern design, and the team's energy was noticeably higher. I walked toward the design department and saw Ethan hunched over his desk, working on a draft. He had lost a lot of weight and his face looked worn and exhausted. Ethan, I said as I approached. He looked up and quickly stood. Miss Taylor, you're here. Just checking in, I said casually, glancing at the sketch on his desk. What's this project? It's a residential development in Ocean City's new district. How's the design coming along? Still revising, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The client had a few concerns, Ethan said quietly. I leaned in to examine the blueprint closely. There are definitely issues here, I pointed out. The space utilization in this section is too low. I tapped the area on the plan. And here the lighting's poor. I know, he nodded. I'll redesign it. Good. I set the blueprint down. How have you been lately? All right, he forced a smile. Just been pretty busy with work. That's good. I looked at him directly. Just focus on your job. I will. I turned to leave, but paused after a few steps. Oh, one more thing. Yes. I heard you've been working late a lot recently. He nodded. Yes. The deadlines are tight on this project. Take care of your health, I said flatly. The company needs productive employees, not ones who push themselves to the edge. I understand. I left the design department with a swirl of emotions. Ethan's current condition did stir a bit of sympathy, but I wasn't going to let it sway me. Some mistakes must come with consequences. Back at Taylor Investments, Sarah came in with an update. Miss Taylor, our people spotted Ethan outside Monica White's building last night. I frowned. They met? No, Sarah shook her head. He stood downstairs for about half an hour and left. Monica didn't come down. Did she know he was there? She probably did, Sarah replied. Our people saw her standing by the window watching him for quite a while. How touching, I sneered. Looks like they're still deeply in love. What should we do next? Keep watching, I said after a moment of thought. If they actually meet, I want to know immediately. Understood. Anything else? Yes, send someone to pass a message to Monica White. What message? If she wants to continue living in Ocean City, she'd better not have any more contact with Ethan Carter. Otherwise, she'll find there's no place left for her here. Got it. That night, I received a phone call at home. The caller ID showed Monica White. Miss Taylor, her voice trembled on the line. Can we talk? What's there to talk about? It's about Ethan and me. Can we meet somewhere? I paused, then answered, Fine. Tomorrow night at 8, Ocean City Cafe. Okay, thank you. After hanging up, I allowed myself a small smile. Looks like it was time for the final reckoning. The next evening, I arrived at Ocean City Cafe on time. It was a quiet spot, not usually crowded. Monica was already there, waiting. It had only been a month, but she looked drastically different. Gone was the polished, glamorous assistant. In her place was an ordinary working woman. She wore a simple white shirt and black slacks. No makeup. Her face was pale and tired. Miss Taylor, she stood up quickly, nodding respectfully. Sit down. I took the seat across from her. Can I get you something to drink? No need. I don't have much time. I glanced at my watch. Say what you need to say. It's about Ethan and me, she said softly. I want to ask you to let him go. Let him go? I laughed lightly. Monica, have you gotten something confused? I'm not the one making his life difficult. I'm simply managing the company as any responsible executive would, I replied calmly. But Monica bit her lip. I know you're doing all of this because of me. If this is revenge, take it out on me. Please don't drag Carter down with it. Drag him down? I let out a cold laugh. Monica White, you really are something else. Who was it that splashed wine in my face in front of 300 guests? Who said I wasn't worthy of marrying Ethan Carter? Who stood on that stage and announced the cancellation of our engagement? And now you come to me, asking me not to hurt him. Her face turned pale with shame. Miss Taylor, I know I made a terrible mistake, but Ethan is innocent. Innocent? I cut her off. Was he innocent when he stood there watching you humiliate me and said nothing? Was he innocent when he turned away instead of defending me? Monica opened her mouth, but no words came out. You know what I hate most, Monica? I said coldly. I hate people who think too highly of themselves. Who do you think you are? What gives you the right to judge me, to interfere in my relationship with Ethan? Tears welled up in her eyes. I only did it because I loved him too much. When I saw he was getting engaged to someone else, I lost control. So your idea of love is to throw wine in someone's face? I asked flatly. I'm sorry, she said, suddenly standing up and bowing deeply. I'll kneel if I have to. Just please, let Carter go. He's been suffering so much. For the past month, he's been blaming himself every single day. He told me if he could go back in time, he'd never let me treat you that way. He would have stood up for you. He would have told everyone you were his fiancée. Her words stirred nothing in me. Let me ask you something, Monica. I looked her in the eye. If I forgave Ethan today, what would happen next? She hesitated. We would start over. We'd live quietly and never bother you again. Start over? I sneered. So you'd still end up together. We've been in love for 3 years, she said desperately. I can't live without him. Great, I stood up. Now I see your real plan. What do you mean? I see exactly what you two were hoping for, that your heartfelt plea would soften me up, and I'd walk away, let you two pick up where you left off. No, that's not what Enough. I cut her off. Monica White, let me say this one last time. I don't care what happens between you and Ethan. But if you think I'll just forgive and forget, not a chance. Ethan must face the consequences of his choices, and you'll pay the price for your actions too. Her eyes were filled with despair. Then what? What do you want from us? It's simple, I said, staring straight at her. I want you two to never be together again. I want Ethan Carter to understand what betrayal costs, and I want you to know what happens when you humiliate me. With that, I turned and walked out of the cafe. Behind me, I could hear her sobbing, but I never looked back. Some debts simply must be paid. 3 months later, Ocean City's business landscape had changed dramatically. Taylor Investment, through a series of acquisitions and strategic partnerships, had become the city's largest investment firm. Under my leadership, Carter Design had grown into Ocean City's most well-known design company. But Ethan Carter's personal decline only deepened. Once a confident, ambitious entrepreneur, he had become just another employee. Though his salary remained generous, the loss of control over his company hit him hard. Worse still, he couldn't be with Monica. As for Monica White, under my careful watch, she went through 3 different jobs, none of which lasted. Eventually, she chose to leave Ocean City entirely. Word was she'd moved to a small city down south. She had found an ordinary job there, while Ethan Carter was left to shoulder all the pain and regret alone. That afternoon, I was in my office going through documents when Suya walked in. Miss Taylor, Ethan Carter is here to see you. He said he has something important to discuss. Let him in. A few minutes later, Ethan walked into my office. He looked even more haggard than 3 months ago. His hair had noticeably grayed. Jasmine, I need to talk to you, he said after sitting down. Go ahead. I want to resign. Resign? I was a little surprised. Why? I want to leave Ocean City, start over somewhere else. Oh? I put down the documents. Where? A small city in the south. Is it because of Monica White? He was silent for a long time, then finally nodded. Yes. Ethan Carter, as far as I remember, we had an agreement. You're not to have any contact with Monica White. I know, he said hoarsely, but I can't do it. For the past 3 months, I've thought about her every single day. I know that's a betrayal to you, but I can't control my feelings. So you're gonna find her? Yes, he looked up at me. I'm gonna find her, be with her, even if it means giving up everything here. I looked at him, and a rush of conflicting emotions welled up inside me. Ethan Carter, do you understand the consequences of what you're doing? I do, he nodded. But I don't care. A life without Monica means nothing to me. These past 3 months, I've been filled with regret. I regret the choices I made. I regret staying silent during the engagement party. I regret not protecting you. But most of all, I regret not having the courage to choose the person I truly love. Jasmine, I'm sorry. I know I hurt you and failed to meet your expectations, but I have to go find her. This is my last chance in this lifetime. He stood up and bowed deeply. Thank you for taking care of me these past 3 months, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to realize what truly matters. Goodbye. With that, he turned and walked out of the office. I sat in my chair, watching his back as he left, my heart a swirl of emotions. The 3 months of calculated revenge had finally come to an end, and yet somehow it felt like I had lost my sense of purpose. As evening fell, I stood alone by the floor-to-ceiling window in my office, looking out at the city lights. Ocean City was beautiful at night, but my heart felt heavy. My phone rang. It was my father. Jasmine, I heard Ethan Carter resigned. Yes. What do you plan to do? Let him go, I said softly. This game is over. You're sure? I'm sure. Good. My father's voice was gentle. Sometimes, knowing when to stop is just as important. You're now the most successful businesswoman in Ocean City. It's time to look ahead. I know. I ended the call and turned back to the window. Ethan Carter had gone to find his true love. And it was time for me to begin a new chapter too. The first story ends here. I hope you enjoyed it. The next one will be even more exciting. Let's keep reading together.